of North Texas to the Texas Academy of Math and Science.
Hi, I'm Aaron Robb. I'm a Texas Academy of Math and Science senior. I'm from Plano, and I guess I wanted me to tell you a little bit about the program. Basically, living up here at the university it's high school on a more challenging level, and basically all of my courses are stuff I'd be taking in high school, either on an honors level or an AP level. So I'm doing an equivalent amount of work as I'd be doing in high school. Plus, I've got the benefits of having all the university faculty and their facilities here. I've been doing, just looking at the labs and everything around NT and doing some work in them. And I've been getting what I think is a much better education here than in high school because of the quality of the teachers that we have here. All of my professors have, their doctoral degrees and everything, which you don't have in high school. And it's a much broader spectrum of academic stuff going on here.
Hi, I'm Dr. Donahue from the Texas Academy of Math and Science. This is a program for mathematically and scientifically precocious high school students that are bored, basically, in high school. They have the opportunity to come to the University of North Texas and take classes with regular North Texas students. These students are participating in a freshman biology program. The equipment that they have here and the scientific expertise that they have here is not offered to normal high school students in the state of Texas. We have a real problem with students that are mathematically precocious and scientifically precocious dropping out of high school. Normally we look at the lower end of the scale and the students who are not having an opportunity in high school. These students also get bored in high school. We're giving them the opportunity to progress at a much more accelerated rate.
It was right for me because I needed the challenge, because I was starting to slough off in high school, and that's not what you need. When you get bored with your classes, you don't do the work. And I can say I've never been bored up here. Been a little frustrated, a little confused, and a little stressed out over classes sometimes.
Y minus 1. Now I'm sure we can simplify this, right? Yes?
Could you do the step between where we are substituting in U and
Where, here?
somewhere when you substituted in?
Okay, here I can do one more step. Just write this, let U equal e to the x. This is e to the x squared.
Right.
So this is u squared minus 1 times y. Here, right? And over here we have u squared plus 1. Now this is just an algebra step here. This is u squared y minus u squared. And then I have a minus y minus 1. And when I factor out the u squared, I have a y minus 1 times u squared plus minus y minus 1 equals whatever y happens to be, as long as y is not equal to 1, right? I already have u solved for y. I can simplify this by multiplying out, and I would get something like, I can get rid of this minus sign and make both of these plus, right? And so I get 4y squared minus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of 4y squared minus 1 over 2 times y minus 1.
Living in the dorm is a lot different than living at home. You have to have a couple of alarms in the morning because your mother's not there to wake you up, which you sort of miss every once in a while because you sleep through class. But it's really good living up here with, there are 90 other students on this floor living with me, and there are 260 more total in the building, and it's like we're all one big community. I see these people every day, and I get to work with them, and we know each other really well, and I think it's helping my education because, you're with these people and you build a sense of spirit and everything, and then you go off and you do lab work with them and you do research, and it really helps when you're in the classroom because you're really tight and you know what's going on.
It's been especially interesting in seeing how people were when they came to the academy and how they have developed and grown since they've been here, both in an academic sense and in a social sense. It's been very rewarding from a staff point of view. There are 7 RAs who work directly with Academy students. In our building are also some other students who are not in the Academy, and we work hard to make sure that all of our students are working together and that we have a smooth running building.
You get used to the curriculum after about a semester. At first it's a real shock because you have to study a lot more than you ever expected, especially a lot more than a regular high school. I find it a lot more rewarding. You have to keep up pace. You're under constant pressure because everyone else here is so highly motivated. You want to keep up. You don't want to fall behind.
Another nice thing is that everyone here wants to be here to succeed. And in a high school, you're lucky if you can find 5% of the people there that want to be there to learn. Here, it's more like 95%. And just the atmosphere here is so much towards succeeding and studying and just being the best in your studies that it makes things easier in that respect. The work is harder. There's a lot more to do, and the teachers are very good. They tell you what you need to know, but they don't tell you what you need to do. You have to learn it on your own.
These students are obviously learning a great deal in their program. This is the Texas Academy of Math and Science, and our guests are from the Academy. With us today are Dr. Tom Brady, who's the director of the program, and Dr. Annetta Ramsey, who is the Associate Director of Student Life. Thank you very much for being here.
It's our pleasure.
Maybe you can very succinctly tell us again what the goal of the program is and how it operates. It's a 2-year program, residential program. Is that right, Dr. Brady? Would you tell us?
Yes, it is. We're hoping to attract students after the sophomore year in high school. They come to the Academy, have a particular interest in mathematics and science. We want to nurture that interest. It's been projected that we're going to have a shortage in the next decade in the areas of science and engineering and mathematics, and we hope the Academy can address that problem and encourage more students in this area.
You say we're going to have a shortage. Do you mean the state of Texas in the business world will have a
The
shortage?
state of Texas and the nation in general, particularly in the area of electrical engineering.
And what's the goal of the program?
The goal is just to encourage more people to get into math and science. I mean, we realize that they're gifted all the way around, but these students have a lot of interest in math and science, and we want to make that more glamorous and interesting.
Okay, so you're trying to attract students who have that interest in the first place and encourage them to develop those natural
Before
interests.
they lose interest.
That was one of the things I was struck by in this feature is one of the students mentioning that he was starting to slough off in high school. I bet that's a big problem. If you are academically and intellectually more gifted than your peers, then after a while the class is just so far behind you that the boredom factor sets in. And
That's correct. We feel like the opportunities we have with the University of North Texas faculty are so much greater than a typical high school setting. For example, this summer we're going to initiate a summer research scholarship program. We will identify about 30 students out of the 90 in our junior class this year and award scholarships so that they can hook up with the university research faculty and spend part of the summer doing research in a research setting.
well, that makes me think, what is the cost then of this particular program? To get into the Academy, what does it cost a student?
Tuition and fees are paid.
Are paid by the state. When the Academy was created at the 1987 session of the legislature, it was not funded. Last year was our first year, and we operated due to the generosity of a number of corporations and foundations. This session of the legislature funded the Academy to the extent of $2.1 million for the biennium. So we have a little over $1 million a year, and approximately half of that is used for scholarships. I would say about half of our students receive some type of financial aid or scholarship support. Our chancellor, Dr. Hurley, has taken the position that any student that qualifies for the program should be able to come regardless of finances.
So that's not an obstacle. Finances are not an obstacle.
That's correct.
What about the qualifications of the students? What qualifications are required?
They have to have high SAT scores. It has to be at least 1,000, and at least 550 of that has to be in the math area of the SAT.
How does the 550 math score compare to an average student's math score?
I'm not sure how it compares to an average freshman. These are 15 and 16-year-olds who are taking this test, so there aren't really norms for that. That's just an entrance requirement to get them a beginning. Our average is much higher than that. It's closer to 1,200 overall, and the math score is what?
About 660. Yeah.
About 660.
It's important to point out that these students take the SAT in the fall of the sophomore year in the 10th grade, and normally when you're comparing or talking about SAT scores, it's in the spring of the junior year, so they're taking it a year and a half earlier than most students would take the SAT. I should point out that the average SAT score for students in the academy at this time is about 1,200, and the average on the math portion is about 660.
Okay. And
Kate, these are really bright youngsters. From the standpoint of comparison, they're really bright youngsters. In fact, I think you indicated that a significant number of these youngsters qualified for the National Merit semifinalist, and so they are really bright young people.
That's very interesting. Last year we did not make it mandatory that all of our students take the PSAT. 67 took the PSAT, and here not too long ago, 20 were announced to be National Merit semifinalists.
Congratulations.
That's about 30%, which is probably the highest in the country.
That's terrific. As far as the demographics of the student population in the academy, can you tell me a bit more about who's taking the courses that you're offering? Who are your students?
It's interesting, about 40 to 45% of the students in the academy at this time are from the North Texas area, but about 55 to 60% are scattered throughout the state, from Texarkana to Corpus Christi, Laredo, Houston, San Antonio, Austin. We've been traveling around the state this fall trying to make people aware of our program, and the response has really been outstanding. We're finding that we're not having to sell the program, simply make it available to people, make them aware of it.
How about ethnic breakdown, sex breakdown of the student population? Are there as many females as males?
It's running about 40% girls and about 60% boys. The Asians is, out of both classes, we have about 10. I should say that the first class that was enrolled in the fall of '88, we had 88 students, and about 76 of those are returning for the second year, and then about 90 beginning this year. The number of Hispanics increased from about 5 to 12. The number of blacks in the first class was about 5, and it's in 2 in the second class. So
it dropped.
It dropped, and we're particularly concerned about recruiting qualified black students for our class next year.
So you're taking active steps to recruit in that area?
Absolutely.
Kate, to show you how they're spread over Texas, we have, more than 100 different Texas towns and communities are represented by these students. So it is a widely diverse spread of students across the state.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier how important you thought it was that math and science, that we have a very rigorous program in that area, so that I believe you mentioned 50% of the people at the moment who are specializing in that area are foreign students. Is that correct?
In the United States as a whole, this past year, slightly more than half of all the students in the advanced degrees in math, science, engineering were foreign students, most of whom will go back to their countries. And so we have a serious shortage of specialists in the area of math and science in this country. And this program is a wonderful program in terms of giving us the opportunity to encourage some people very young to go into math, science, engineering backgrounds.
Okay. How about as far as the students adjusting? You've obviously got students who are sold on the idea that they do need to educate themselves in this area. How are they adjusting to college life at such a young age?
They've made a wonderful adjustment, and in fact their adjustment hasn't looked any different from what we see in most college freshmen. They do well in the program. They participate in all the activities on campus. We do have some limits on their activities. They have more rules than the average college freshman, but that would
help
be
bridge
expected.
the gap from going from a
Right.
home environment
Right.
to freedom of choice.
Right. Our students range in age from 15 to 18, so they're not as old as the other students. They cannot be in fraternities and sororities. They have a curfew. They can't have a car their first year. And then we do provide some activities for them in addition to what the university provides. They have a prom, they have a student council, so they have a lot of high school equivalent activities.
Okay, so the approach then is that you're dealing with the whole student and not just saying we're going to make
Right.
math, science wizards.
Right.
Absolutely, that's
We want
very...
well-adjusted people.
Yeah.
And they are, very much so.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there are two major adjustments that they must make early on in that first semester. One, obviously, is being away from home for an extended period for the first time. And the second one is study skills, study habits. These kids are so bright, usually in high school, they do not have to spend much time doing their studies when they're in university classes with other university students. For example, that first semester, they take chemistry, biology, mathematics, and English. And they must develop good study skills early. But they respond to that very well. It's just amazing what they're able to accomplish.
What kinds of things do the students want to go on and use these skills towards? And also, as a society making this investment in students, what kind of things can we look to them for?
Well, they're interested, as you would guess, in the areas of mathematics, science, and engineering.
So engineering is a main goal for a number of them
Very
to get
definitely.
involved in engineering.
About 30% of our students are interested in some kind of engineering. They're also interested in medicine. We have a number of pre-medical students. Some are interested in pursuing PhDs in biochemistry, physics, mathematics. A few want to be teachers. So there's a broad spectrum of areas related to math and science.
Kate, I think it's important to note that this is a program that's targeted at our gifted and talented youngsters. We have a lot of programs in Texas targeted at special students. We've talked about our at-risk students and how we've got to do some things. But I think this is an example of students that are not so much at risk, but students that are superior students that are clearly going to be some of the best and the brightest in the future. And we've got to enhance this program and other activities like it to reach our gifted and talented. Have to reach all our students. And this is a group that very often is overlooked.
That's something I've noticed in the last few years, because so much emphasis has been on how do we help the kids who are dropping behind, that it is easy to overlook the fact, hey, wait a minute, now we've got some kids on the other side as well, and let's not lose them in the process, because we sure need them to lead us in the areas where we're weak. And that's obviously math and science in this particular case is what we need leaders for tomorrow in whatever field.
We're finding as we travel around the state this fall that there are a lot of parents that have identified their children as being gifted and talented, and they are nurturing these children, putting them in special summer programs, the Duke Talent Search, etc.
Thank you very much for being here. Really appreciate it. There's never enough time. And we won't be back until after the new year, so enjoy your holidays, and we will see you on January 15th on the next Texas Education Report.
The Texas Education Report has been made possible in part by a grant from the Texas Association of School Boards.